Hello, and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today, we have Netflix's 138th film. It's the 2019 comedy drama Paddleton. It's directed by Alex Lehmann, stars Mark Duplass and Ray Romano. I am Jesse, and I have a very, very special guest here today with me, Austin. Welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be on here.
I'm very excited to have Austin here because a couple of years ago when we started this off and we could go through the list and see the films that were coming up, and Paddleton was on that list, and Austin said I'd love to be on there when we do that, so we're here.
We're here.
Which is very good. So going to keep me company today, and I'm hoping that he'll have some better thoughts on this film than I do anyway, I think, because he's got a good ability to put together some good ideas on film. So welcome, and we'll kick off with a fast flicks where we do a quick summary of the film. What have you got for us, Austin?
So what I've written down is the unexpected climax of a friendship between neighbours Michael and Andy is reached when Michael is diagnosed with stomach cancer, setting up a campy road trip wherein euthanasia drugs are retrieved and the bonds of their friendship are cemented forever.
Very nice. I like it. It talks very much so there about friendship, and mine's a bit shorter but covers exactly the same thing. It's the story of two friends dealing with an incurable illness and that question of dying with dignity. And I'm glad we both watched the same film. It seems like it. So we like to then sort of kick off with anything we could learn about the film. So what are some facts or some information about this film that you've been able to find out?
So Mark Duplass, who starred in the film, he also had a hand in writing it, which I was very surprised at because I haven't really seen a film where he's been part of the writing team. One of the really big things that I learned about Paddleton was the fact that a majority of the dialogue in the film was improvised by Romano and Duplass. And Romano even stated that he was really, really nervous about improvising like dramatic sequences because they went into them unrehearsed.
And yeah, they only had 20 pages of a script when they went into production on this. So for them to be able to flesh it out with all that improvisation that you mentioned, it's good effort from the two actors.
In terms of critical reception, it was really well received when it premiered at Sundance in 2019. It's got a 7.1 on IMDb, 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a whopping 3.7 average on Letterboxd.
It does. So the Rotten Tomatoes, it's certified fresh, which is a positive thing that we don't often see on the Netflix films, because there were 44 critics that had actually given it a whack, which is good. Audience on Rotten Tomatoes too had it very positive at 87%, and as you mentioned, IMDb Letterboxd very positive too, with big ratings there as well. I think that some other things I guess I'll just add in there with you too, that the script for this one too, it was actually based on this, I guess it was a podcast episode. I don't know if
between two friends, right?
Two friends, yeah. There's these guys called Rob Merman and Bill Morency, and it was a podcast in 2016 called The Last Chapter, and then I think Duplass and they got together, saw this, and thought it'd make a good feature as well.
Yeah.
The director Alex Lehmann. In the film, the characters follow this kung fu film. It's like one of their moments together watching this kung fu film. And I think it was called Death Punch.
Yeah.
And that was a fictional film made for this film. Which I thought was quite interesting. And the director went on to say, and we say this a lot with Netflix, that it's not the most marketable film, but it's a film in traditional ways that Netflix isn't afraid to say we'll jump on board with that, and they know that an audience is going to find it because so many people have Netflix. So with that, they're allowed to do things they want to do, which old studio heads probably wouldn't do. So it's an impressive thing to see another director say Netflix is a place where I can do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And this was the first of a 4-picture deal that Mark and Jay Duplass signed with Netflix. So there's 3 more that they'll have on Netflix coming up too.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Have you got anything else?
I've got nothing else I could find, yeah.
The only other thing I've got, in Vietnam, this is simply called Friends.
Really?
Yes, just Friends. So obviously the translation of Paddleton, I guess, tell us, what does Paddleton actually mean?
So Paddleton is the game that is played between the two friends across the film, and it's one that I would love to try in real life.
Maybe we could give a crack and put up a video of it. We need a big barrel and a couple of rackets,
a massive
and
wall,
a big wall. It was on the back of a drive-in wall. I thought that was a nice little cinematic.
I think it was
a little mention too.
It's actually a real life location in California, I believe.
Yes, I think this was filmed in and around the Santa Barbara County in California. So, yeah, I'm sure if there's anyone listening that lives nearby, could let us know if you can actually get down there, because it looked pretty derelict.
Yeah.
This was nominated for a couple of awards too. Didn't win. 3 nominations. One for makeup at the Hollywood Makeup Artist and Hairstylist Awards for the best makeup special effects, and then both Mark Duplass and Ray Romano were nominated for their acting at the Indiana Film Journalist Associations as well. So no wins though. Donuts.
Unlucky.
Good. I guess we could lead into early thoughts. Do you have any? What are your early thoughts on this film?
Essentially, this film's strength just really lies for me in its simplicity and how relatable it is, which is, even though it's really kind of funky subject matter, it's very relatable, I found. Yeah.
I completely agree. I think that, as you mentioned, the simplicity of this, not much actually happens in this film, realistically, you think about it. It's sort of like, it's this bromance road film that deals with these real tender issues in life, but it's also like a hang movie. It's like those Tarantino movies that you see where it's just these two, and this goes in with that improv that we spoke about. They just hang out and talk to each other. And I think, Duplass and Romano, Ray, they keep the audience really engaged with these performances, and it does make it seem very real, like you mentioned too.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we've said there's really only 2 characters in this film, I think, that have a lot of meat to talk about. Well, would you like to hit us off with a character?
So I'll start with who I feel is the most important character in the film, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the one that was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and he's dealing with it, in my opinion, one of the most human ways imaginable. He doesn't want to suffer, he doesn't want to prolong the inevitable. I'd say pessimistic is the wrong term for Michael's character, because I believe that, in a way, he's kind of representative of what many terminal patients might be experiencing right now, which is the penultimate question of, why am I going to fight this if there is a greater chance of death? Because even if they do, during that time, the loved ones, their families, they won't want to give up. They'll always hold the idea of survival. And that old Michael, his decision to commit suicide, is a testament to... Oh, spoiler alert, sorry. It's a
So we should have done that at the start.
Yeah, should have done that at the start, yeah.
We are going to spoil this
big
film.
spoiler warning.
You should have
for
paused
Paddleton,
already.
yeah. So his decision is just a testament to how strong his character is, because he said, I want to go out with dignity, how I want to go, before the serious, horrible effects of the stomach cancer will get to him.
Yep, I agree with everything that you've said, because I think that idea too that, and I'll probably mention on Andy a little bit here without going into Andy, but he hasn't really had, we don't really see these special connections that he has with anyone other than him. They make a brief mention about a sibling on the phone at some stage. He makes a mention later in the film about a past marriage, but these are all things that are in the background, because this film is about this journey, I guess, that this connection that he's made with his neighbour in Andy, and he's found his place with Andy, which you mentioned, and I think that payoff is that we see that monotonous job that they both have. They both have that, one works in a post office, one works in just like a regular sort of office, and when you look at the realities of life, everyone, to live you need to work, and these 2 guys worked, and then there's this reflection that maybe they could have lived a bit more together a bit more too, because I think that the reflection to me towards this is that Michael did wish that he'd spent more time with Andy, and I think that, as you've mentioned as well, that idea of how he fights and makes those choices himself is very commendable, to be able to feel strong enough with that too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, Andy, do you want to fill us in on Andy? What are your thoughts on Andy?
I think he's the perfect companion to a character like Michael. He's so supportive, loving, and inspirational. I mean, the halftime speech.
Did you like that speech?
So inspirational. Beautiful, beautiful speech. And it's just amazing to watch how he stays by his side until the end. And I think Ray Romano just brought him to life. I think no one could have played him better than Ray Romano. I think it was just incredible.
And I think Ray Romano in his more serious roles. He's in The Irishman. He's in The Big Sick. The Big Sick. Yeah. These types of roles, it shows that he's more than just a comic. But this character Andy that he does bring alive, like you've mentioned, he does add that comedic element while being serious. And I think that with him too, like he is pretty serious because he mentions multiple times he hates that small talk that they say in the office and things like that, but that's the kind of conversation that keeps this relationship with Michael going. It's just that small talk that they have, the random conversations about the most mundane things that you wouldn't necessarily go out of your way to talk to people about.
Yeah.
And it's really touching to see that this film to me is him not being able to deal with losing Michael, and he wants to believe in this idea of miracles and not giving up, and he's scared of facing life and we see this a couple of times where he pulls his beanie over his face, and it's like a mechanism for him to sort of to cover up. He can't deal with, like in the spa, I think he pulls the beanie over his head because he's like, I can't deal with this situation with this lady. In the car, he's like, I can't deal with this situation, to go and get these pills. And I just thought that was a really cool little way of doing that. And he buys this safe to put this medicine in because he thinks that he can still have Michael in his life, and he's protective too. He doesn't want to share him with anyone. Like there's a scene in the bar where he cracks it when this pharmacist's there and joins them, and he wakes up and he's not in the hotel room. He freaks out. He goes running around town trying to find him. Wakes him when he's sleeping because he thinks he's dead. This is a guy who can't imagine and can't think of life without Michael there, and I think that this character was that was done perfectly.
Couldn't agree more.
Good. This director, Alex Lehmann. Have you heard of any of his work?
It's his was it his debut? I don't think I've heard of anything else from Lehmann.
So I had a quick look. So by the look of things, a lot of camera and electrical work on films. 36 credits for that.
I see.
Done 2 documentaries on Asperger's, and had done a small film called Blue Jay, and then this one. But that's it. So possibly someone to watch.
Definitely have a look at. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is where we head into some scenes that we liked or didn't like. We'll start off with some scenes that stood out for you, or some scenes that you enjoyed.
The opening sequences of the pair playing Paddleton, because obviously it's in the title, and I was waiting for this game to appear on the big screen, and it was well worth it because it's shot so beautifully. Like it's a painting. It's really rare to have a film like this with good cinematography, because you'd think it'd be more focused on, because it was marketed as a comedy, I believe.
I think so.
Yes, yeah. And it's rare that you have good cinematography in a film like that, but this just pulls it off incredibly. And we're introduced to Andy's great halftime talent in that scene, which brings me very nicely to Andy's halftime speech in the bar bathroom, which I just loved. I think it was incredible, well worth the wait. And finally, the reason I love this film so much, and that's the last about 20 minutes of the film when the inevitable does happen. Never has a scene made me cry that much when watching a film, because it was beautiful, acting incredible, the mood was depressing, it took you straight out of the kind of campy road trip to, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible.
Good. I completely feel all those emotions that you've spoken about, and I think that there are a good little bunch of scenes that you've identified, and I've got some similar sort of ones. So I think that any time that they played Paddleton game, it was just something. It was nice, and this is obviously to do with these 2 characters, and this film's that character, that following those 2 characters, and this game is something special that they share together, and it was just nice to see that game at a few stages throughout, and even that little mention at the end where, even though, and we have spoiled this, but even though Michael's gone, Andy wants to keep this idea of Paddleton going. With the new neighbour, ostrich farm scene. There's a scene where they're on this road trip to get the medicine. I enjoyed this. There's not a lot of one-liners in it that really stood out, but they're standing there looking at this ostrich, and Andy's talking about it being the fastest land animal, and then Michael says, "No, I'm pretty sure it's the cheetah," and Andy says, "Yeah, but that's got 4 legs," and per leg ostrich is the fastest. I thought that was quite funny. I had a good giggle with that one.
I had a good laugh with that. Yeah.
I didn't mind. In the bar. They're in this bar scene, and this is where Andy's getting very protective of Michael, and Michael gets up on the mic to talk about his love of this kung fu movie, and I just liked the conclusion where Andy got up, got involved, played along with him, thought it was very sweet, and just showed that sweet side of Andy as well. Sorry, I've got a couple more. And I liked that, and you mentioned this too, towards the end, Andy's sitting by his side through everything, the vomiting, the sleeping on the couch, the tablets. That was just, very emotional, and the 2 where they both tell each other that they love each other. That was just waited all movie for that, because I think that as an audience that felt really good to hear that between the 2. So that was nice.
Yeah.
All right. Anything that you didn't like in this one?
I feel bad because I'm going to completely flip the kung fu reenactment scene on you, and
good.
I felt a bit, I think it was a really well crafted scene. My only problem with it was that I get really bad secondhand embarrassment, and I'm just sitting watching that scene, and I'm thinking, oh god, if I was doing that, not good. I would feel very embarrassed.
It's almost like those karaoke scenes that you're seeing sometimes, where you're like, you feel that awkwardness, that stage fright that you're like, oh, if I was in that situation, and I completely get what you're saying, yeah.
And that was it. Okay. Really, that's the only scene that I was uncomfortable with.
I haven't got anything, so this is pretty well put together. But we will lead into talking about some themes and some ideas in this one, or some motifs, or something. Well, what's the message of this film? And I think there's quite a bit that you could probably touch on for us, Austin.
So, from me, the biggest message that this film showed was that it's really not the large dramatic moments that we remember in our climax. It's the kind of small, like, idiosyncrasies and the routines that you'll remember, the traditions that we take for granted, the movies, the pizzas. That's what we'll miss the most when we're gone. But it's just the kind of look at what you have and use it.
Yeah. I've said exactly what you said, just in different ways. It's this idea that everyone's running out of time to spend with their loved ones, so take that on board. That ability to deal with loss and dying and death and preparing for that, I guess. And in this instance, Andy had time to prepare for it, but even though he had time to prepare for it, it doesn't mean it's less impactful or less hurtful or less traumatic or painful for him, because of his friendship and his loyalty that he's had for this neighbour that he's lived above for however long it's been. And I don't know if I imagine this, but there was a scene where they're in bed, and I think Andy's upstairs lying, and you can like hear Michael snoring almost. Yeah, and I just liked that was showing how close they actually are. I thought that was quite good. And obviously too, this idea of assisted suicide, that is definitely, like, when this came out a couple of years ago, it's a topical sort of issue, like about the morals and is it acceptable, is it justified, and obviously things are still changing around the world in regards to that too. Yeah. Alright. Anything else?
Obviously there's a pretty big theme of death, but
yes.
Death, love, the big ones have got to be mentioned, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, what did you take away from this one? Anything in particular?
In terms of like why it was good? Yeah. This film was brought together by the two performances.
Yep.
I'm so surprised they weren't nominated more across award season, because Romano and Duplass blew me away. This is one of the films that really kind of cemented my love for acting, because just to see these two, one often comedic actor that I've never seen in such a dramatic role, just blew me away to think that someone could have that range and bring that kind of depth and emotion to such a complicated character.
Yep.
Cinematography is something else I have to touch on, because it was beautiful and very surprising as well, and the chemistry between the two actors I think was incredible as well, and especially given that it was improvised, that's just testament to it.
I'm along those similar sorts of lines, because for me it's so engaging, even though it's like just watching these two friends talk rubbish to each other all day, because the conversations are believable, because you believe in this friendship and you believe in that because of these performances and their ability to actually make you believe these characters are real. So I think that it helps that there's very little interaction with the outside world, and when it is, it's brief and short and quickly shut off. So like, the owner at the hotel, or the pharmacist, or whoever it is, or there's a scene at the start where Andy's like, oh, this girl in the office spoke to me, the new girl, and it was just like, that was a one little line and that was it. It was good that we didn't need any follow on with any of these characters, because what you did need to focus on is them. And I agree with you. Exactly. IMDb time. Did you go onto IMDb to check anyone out?
I just hopped on about halfway through just to have a look at who wrote it, because I just couldn't stop thinking, geez, this is good. How I found out that most of it was improv. That's how I found out, and that just made the rest of the film better for me. Good.
So this was, how many times have you seen this film? Do you reckon
this would have been the fourth time I've seen this. Yeah.
Impressive. Very impressive. So that's obviously why you're here.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'd seen it, so it was. I had sat there and I'd seen it, and I was like, I wanted to watch it, but I knew whenever it would come up on this show, I'd get there eventually. I didn't jump onto IMDb, so there was nothing for me to check out. But I do have some questions for you. Did you have any questions for me?
Not necessarily, no.
So I guess the capsules that there's those 100 capsules that they talk about. Do you reckon they did that on purpose to make it easier for the person to change their mind? Like, so that you had this drawn out feel when they got to that last pack that it was like, we've got this idea, we can draw, like, just give up on it? Is that the idea? Because I don't know, like, I tried to look at, I couldn't see if there was an actual medicine like this that actually exists. And
I think it was just, in a way, I think it was to kind of like draw it out, but
just like narrative wise, that maybe
narrative wise, it's just to draw it out a little bit more. But yeah, I think that definitely could be an aspect, which is like, I've gone this far. Do I really want to do this? I think it really encourages them to reconsider, because it's all this, like, 1, 2, and then you get to 100 and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good. So were they just neighbours and friends, or do you reckon like after this film, if there had been a miracle, that it could have been more?
In my opinion,
yeah,
I think this love was more platonic.
Yep.
In that sense, like best friends, like brothers. That's the way I'd put it. These guys are so close, and their close isn't necessarily bound by romance. It's more their platonic shared love for certain things. I think that's where you bond really, really closely, or where they bonded really, really closely, should I say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that would have progressed to,
I don't know,
I say, a romantic relationship.
Part of me was like, maybe I wanted them to be together. I felt like that.
I guarantee there's some fan fiction out there somewhere about.
I don't know, I just like, there's part of me that was like, they would just make the most beautiful couple. And I just was like, I wanted to see them like together. I don't know why. That was just me at the end.
Sharing burnt pizzas as they sail off into the sunset at the end of the
just
film.
chucking a staircase inside so they can, share the house. Doesn't have to be 2 separate places. I don't know, it just seemed like there was all these situations that would have made it perfect. But obviously that's not the way that this film went. But I think we're almost ready to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
Give it a crack. So at the end of our chat, we give the film a rating out of 5 stars to come up with an average. It's been a while since I've had to work out an average for a film, so you might test my maths here. But Austin, fill us in on your final thoughts. What are you?
So my final thoughts is that this is my favourite Netflix original film by far.
Big call.
Big call, and I think it's incredible, which is a word I've said way too much this podcast, but it really just hits home how I feel about it. The performances, beautiful. The chemistry, beautiful. I've got to give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh, first appearance and we're giving a 5. I like that. I like the ballsiness of that. That's
absolutely.
And that's what we want to hear. Like, it's great to hear people who have connections with film. So 5 is good score. For me, so like I mentioned before, not an awful lot happened in this film. But that didn't mean that it wasn't enjoyable, because, like I mentioned, the relationship between Michael and Andy, it's believable, it's warming, the interactions that they've got, and they have with the world further builds on their closeness, I guess. There's always going to be emotional having an ending like this one as well. And I highly recommend it too, but possibly not for people who might be going through illnesses in family or similar situations, because it might just be too much. But 3.5 out of 5 for me, which gives us a 4.25 out of 5 as an average, which is excellent. So that's really good. We do have social media. We've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, Facebook. Question of the week, and you can answer this one too if you want, but this is what's going to go up on our socials. Is this Michael or Andy's story? From your talk about your characters, I think I can pick up on whose story I think possibly you think this is.
Yes, and I would, in my opinion, I think it would be Michael's story.
So
yeah,
I reckon.
Despite the fact that it ends with Andy,
I reckon this story is Andy's story, and it's his story of dealing with life and getting out there. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Different interpretations work 100%. We will be back again next week. Next week we've got a French drama from 2019. It's called Paris is Us, or in French, Paris us nous. That's horrible, but I don't know French. It's directed by Elizabeth Vogier, and it stars Naomi Schmidt, Gregor Isvan, and Marie Matet. So that's what we've got next week. You're more than welcome to come along again if you like, Austin. I know you like your French films.
Fantastic. Yeah, I do. I really do.
Good. Well, it's been good having you here. Thank you for coming along.
It's been a pleasure.
I think for your first episode, you've done an excellent effort. So hope you've had fun doing it too.
I have indeed. It's been great.
And I'm sure we'll get you back at some stage soon.
100%.
Good.